Welcome to Watch Mojo. For this list, we'll be looking at famous people who were rejected by the military.
Let me think. Don't think. Feel.
Number 10, Jimmy Stewart.
Maybe we could get the ranch back together again, round up the strays, and then we hadn't given it much thought.
In anticipation of an entrance into World War II, the U.S. military initiated the draft in September 1940. Actor Jimmy Stewart was one of many drafted, but he was rejected for being 5 pounds underweight for his height. Undeterred, Stewart approached NGM muscle man and physical trainer Don Loomis to help.
Hold on now. Don't you know there's a war on?
Stewart tried again to enlist in the Army Air Corps and again failed to weigh in. Using his Hollywood charm, he convinced the recruiter to run the test one more time and passed. A month after winning the Best Actor Oscar for The Philadelphia Story, he was the first major American star to serve in the World War II-era military. He achieved the rank of colonel and won several awards before his tour ended.
In spite of the fact that somebody's up from the bottom, he can still be quite a heel. And even though somebody else is born to the purple, he can still be a very nice guy.
Number 9, Alfred Hitchcock.
I can't bear quarreling. I can't bear feelings between people. I think hatred is wasted energy.
Weight, both either too light or too heavy, was one of the primary reasons for being rejected for military service. Later in life, famed director Alfred Hitchcock was able to make light of his weight. When he was younger, however, his obesity haunted him. Like many teen boys in England during World War I, Hitchcock wanted to enlist. He was too young for most of the war, but when he turned 18, young Alfred was called up. Unfortunately, he was excused from service due to his weight.
This young man, you had to feel sorry for him. After all, being dominated by an almost maniacal woman was enough to drive anyone to the extreme of, well, let's go in.
He received a C3 classification, deemed only suitable for sedentary work. Number 8, Bruce Springsteen. Ever since the 1984 presidential campaign, American conservatives have tried to co-opt Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA as a jingoistic political anthem. In truth, the song is a sober reflection on the plight of Vietnam War vets. It was also written out of guilt.
Born down in a dead man's town, the first kicker took us when I hit the ground.
Springsteen himself almost joined their ranks. Like many young men who didn't believe in the war, Springsteen was drafted against his will at 19. In his own words, Springsteen was a stone-cold draft dodger, receiving 4F status due to a concussion from a motorcycle accident. He also deliberately gave the Army crazy answers to ensure he avoided the draft. Number 7, Charlie Chaplin. In 1914, a group of British women formed an organization called the Order of the White Feather. In British culture, white feathers had been a symbol for cowardice since the 18th century. During World War I, these women would accost men on the street, handing white feathers to shame them into signing up for combat. Famous actor Charlie Chaplin was one such man. For much of the war, Chaplin was harassed constantly by British citizens who accused him of cowardice for refusing to serve. In truth, Chaplin had registered for combat, but was rejected due to his low weight and small stature. For years, even after the war ended, British men and women would send Chaplin white feathers.
Oh, gonna put up a fight, are ya? Come on down, Pet. Shoot you? Now, let me tell you something.
Number 6, Julia Child.
Today we're going to do coq au vin, chicken and red wine.
Although best known for bringing French cuisine to the United States, Julia Child was a true patriot. When the U.S. entered World War II, women across the country enlisted in the military. The U.S. Navy's WAVES, women accepted for volunteer emergency service, and the Women's Army Corps accepted women for non-combat roles. Child, thanks to her 6'2" height, was rejected by both. Julia didn't let that stop her, ultimately joining the Office of Strategic Services, precursors to the CIA.
I ended up in the files, and I stayed in the files all during the war. But at least I knew what was going on.
While there, Julia rose through the ranks, ultimately working as a researcher for the chief of the organization. As an OSS officer, Child invented a shark repellent that saved the lives of downed pilots in the Pacific.
Go out and work with the very best people you can find and suck all their juices out, and then go to someone else.
Number 5, Orson Welles.
I think that all vital periods of the drama and of literature are periods of great violence, and that all of our great plays and novels are violent.
Citizen Kane, considered by many to be the greatest American film ever made, was released on May 1st, 1941. 7 months later, the United States was pulled into World War II thanks to the attack on Pearl Harbor and Germany's declaration of war.
The decent, ordinary citizens know that I'll do everything in my power to protect the underprivileged.
Like many actors of the time, Welles was drafted. His status underwent several shifts. At first, he was listed as 1B, available for limited duty only. Eventually, after examination by Army doctors, Welles was considered 4F, denied service on medical grounds. As it turned out, he had multiple conditions, including both flat feet and asthma, that kept him from the fight.
I never make up my mind about anything at all until it's over and done with.
Number 4, Paul Newman.
How many honest men you know? You take the sinners away from the saints, you're lucky to end up with Abraham Lincoln.
At the outbreak of World War II, a very young Paul Newman desperately wanted to fly. He dreamed of becoming a bomber pilot, taking the flight to the Japanese or the Germans. Unfortunately, and unbeknownst to Newman, he was colorblind. His application was rejected, but Newman pivoted and went to basic training instead.
You'd love to keep me hustling for you, huh? Wouldn't you? I mean, a couple more years with me scuffling around them little towns and those back alleys, you might make yourself enough to get a little pool room back in Oakland.
He joined the Navy and found his way onto a torpedo bomber as a radio man, and then turret gunner. He was meant to be a part of the bloody Battle of Okinawa, but his plane was grounded due to his pilot having an ear infection. After the war, Newman used the GI Bill to go to college, where he studied acting.
I mean, it is business as usual, and we go about our lives, and there is no pain in our lives. And I don't know what war is all about, if it isn't to create pain.
Number 3, Frank Sinatra.
You must be a bunch of those Nazi werewolves I've been reading about.
Mister, you screwy!
Not me, I'm an American.
Frank Sinatra achieved national fame in 1940 while singing with the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra. A few years after he became a national celebrity, his number was called and he went to the draft board. He was classified 4F due to a perforated eardrum.
What makes the sun set? What makes the moon rise?
He spent the war rising in fame, launching his career in film. All during the war and for years afterwards, he was haunted by accusations of having strings pulled to get him out of combat. After his death, the FBI's files on Sinatra were made public. In addition to the perforated eardrum, we learned that Sinatra was also rejected on psychological grounds. According to the Examiner's report, Sinatra suffered from severe neurosis and fear of crowds, and so was deemed unfit.
I'm not exactly stationed in New York. I was stationed in Washington, but I got sick. And I'm on leave, and I'm suspended in New York.
Number 2, Bruce Lee.
When you're talking about fighting as it is, no rules. With no rules.
Not real fighting.
Well then, baby, you better train every part of your body.
Martial arts legend and actor Bruce Lee was a student at the University of Washington in Seattle from 1961 to 1964. Even then, Lee was in peak physical condition. He was part of the Army ORTC and had planned to join the military after school. He was drafted in 1963, but was rejected and listed as 4F. According to his biographer Sid Campbell, Lee failed his physical thanks to a sinus disorder, poor eyesight, and an undescended testicle. Campbell claimed that Lee considered himself to be the fittest man the Army ever rejected.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, John F. Kennedy.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
John F. Kennedy was the son of Joseph Kennedy, SEC chairman and eventual ambassador to the UK. Joseph was infamously hands-on with his sons, hoping to guide them to great careers in public service. John graduated from Harvard and in 1940 tried to become an officer in the US Army. Unfortunately, John suffered from numerous medical conditions, including ulcers and chronic back problems.
This is one country. It has become one country because all of us and all the people who came here had an equal chance to develop their talent.
He was rejected by the Army, at which point Joseph pulled some strings to get John into the Navy. The future president served in naval intelligence until he managed to transfer onto a patrol torpedo boat, PT-109. Despite his initial rejection, JFK served with distinction, saving his men when their boat sank. Were you shocked that any of these icons were rejected by the military? Let us know in the comments.
It would be a welcome reminder to every American family that we can pray a good deal more at home.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.